Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Get Real show with I'll be your host today and with Kenneth, Clifford, and guest David Hoffmeister. And today's theme is dropping of the mask. And speaking of that theme, actually we're going to open it up as usual with Q&A. And you can start praying even right now to see like what's really burning on your heart, or if you have any emotions stirring, to see what comes up when that time comes to open it up. Since we want to just see if we can get all the hands in the session. And actually today I had a prayer too to share with you guys, and it's from the manual for teachers. It's how is judgment relinquished, and it's paragraph 2, and it goes, it is necessary for the teacher of God to realize not that he should not judge, but that he cannot. In giving up judgment, he is merely giving up what he did not have. He gives up an illusion, or better, he has an illusion of giving up. He has actually merely become more honest, recognizing that judgment was always impossible for him. He no longer attempts it. This is no sacrifice. On the contrary, he puts himself in a position where judgment through him rather than by him can occur. And this judgment is neither good nor bad. It is the only judgment there is. And it is only one. God's Son is guiltless, and sin does not exist. Thank you guys, and I'll pass it over to Kenneth now.
Oh, thank you so much, Andy, for that. That's a beautiful way to start. Everyone's smiling. Get myself here. I'm just going to put it back onto the gallery. There we go. Yeah, that's a wonderful way of starting the session. Just remembering that we're guiltless. We never sinned. And that's the bottom line of A Course in Miracles. That's the whole thing right there. And so thank you, Andy. Andy picked that out to share with us today, and that's a beautiful place to start, really. Yeah, just to remember that you never did anything wrong. And yeah, so we want to experience that. We truly want to experience that. And that's what's being offered. So yeah, that's where we're headed. And that's, to me, that's a wonderful thing. That's a blessing. And that's why I sit here today in deep honor of these teachings that have been given to save me. So that feels like everything. So I feel so much gratitude right now. Yeah, for all of you, for everyone, for everything. Because that's what we're here to do. We're here to give the miracles away. We're here to bless the world. And that is the only function that you have, really. You are the blessing. You know, there's no need to play small. That's your job, you know. That's the only thing that you can do. There's nothing else that you can do other than bless, you know. And it's like, what, me? You sure? And it's like, yeah, because you already are it. There's nothing to add to you, you know. So it's not like we're working on something, you know. It's not like we're going to learn something. It's like we're going to remember the truth about you, what you are. And right now, whether you know it or not, you are bestowing miracles around the world and around the universe, and it's just happening in and of itself. And it's just whether you want to switch on that channel. That's basically it, isn't it? That's really it. It's like just, it is as simple as turning over the TV. And so that's why he shares with us that you are entitled to miracles. And I think that that brings me back to David's teachings for me last week was were absolutely spot on and really like helped me. It was like you were sort of reading my thoughts, David, and I was like, how the hell does he know all of this? I was checking my room for cameras. I'm thinking, is he spying on me or what? It's like that's exactly what was happening in my mind. And so it was like you shared, um, you know, that basically it was like, oh, you have a belief that you're entitled to respect, and it just sort of like hit me. It was like, oh yeah, that's the belief. Like, wow. And then you turned it and you said, no, respect the miracle. And I was just like, wow, oh my God. That's all we can do. Because, how I was seeing it is like, respect me, respect this person, respect this individual special identity, and it's all for me because I'm so special and I should be respected. And no, I'm not giving any of that away because just respect me, thank you very much. And so I just couldn't see that. I was blind. I mean, admittedly, I have seen entitlement, but it was another little twist. It was like, oh, thank you very much for revealing that to me. And then, the flip of it was, you gave me the miracle, respect the miracle. And it was just like, oh my God. So I listened back to the talk afterwards and just, was just bathing in the teachings and the blessings that you gave, David, and Jesus gives us it all the time. And as Andy started with us, we're guiltless. And of course, from that sort of situation, it's like, oh yeah, I feel I'm entitled. That's not a very good thing. I'm guilty. And it's like, no, respect the miracle, accept the correction, accept the miracle. That's, it's the bottom line for everything. It's so simple. Something happens, ask for a miracle, It's really, really that simple. It's really not that hard. And you're not even in charge of the miracle as well, so you can just ask for it and just receive it. And so that's what that felt like to me. And so this is what this week's all about, really, is handing over the miracle to everyone, giving it to everyone, because then that blesses us all, which is then a blessing to myself. And so what more would I want to do than to bless everyone? And so, yeah, after last week's session, Jesus led me to the section of walking in Christ. And it was beautiful, actually, because he really wanted me to go over it very, very slowly. And I really, really took my time in the evening. And it was just like this peace was just like, it was almost like instant peace, I actually had it on the computer through ACIM now, and it was like, because I sort of like moved in that direction, it was just like, I'm already saved. It was like it was already over before I even read the words. As he says, he knows the prayer of the heart before I do. And now it was just a matter of time of just taking in and soaking in his words. And really, of course, the message underneath it all was that you did nothing wrong. And one of the things in that section that actually really touched me, which is like a strong belief in this world, is like, you really believe that by getting ahead, that, you'll almost be better than your brother, or, even going behind, like you won't have to sort of face your brother. And yet both positions are faulty thinking. And that it's actually to join with your brother equally in the miracle. Like, no one is ahead and no one is behind. And you must ultimately realize that. And you must ultimately realize that we are equal. And that was a big part of last week's teachings. Like, you have to want to see the equality. And of course, again, that was the blessing for me. I don't want to be equal. I am special, and I've got special needs, and I want them met. And if they're not going to be met, I'm going to be upset. And it's like, Jesus is like, that's not quite what I'm teaching. And so, yeah, in that section, it makes it very, very clear that it is equality, and that there are no differences in Christ, in your Christ mind, in our Christ mind. Like, it's just impossible. And so that's what we're wanting to see in one another right here and now. Because we can do that, can't we? We're comparing and we're judging all the time. This one's better than me. This one's worse than me. I'm the same as this one, and even that, oh, I'm the same. That's not good. I want to be better, or sometimes I want to stay in my victim position. But that's not what is being told. And so really that's what I'm seeing about this dropping of this mask. It's really about this sort of special character. And maybe this will be resonating with you because over the past week, so many people seem to be facing their core issue. It's like just been amazing, really. And I just feel so blessed to be able to witness that and hear the courage to be like, this is exactly how I feel about myself. The pure, raw vulnerability of like, I have been holding on to this and I just can't do this any longer. I feel worthless, and I want to get, and I want it done. I want to let this go. So it's just been, a very, very powerful week of healing with literally everyone I meet has been going through something. And so that's what I feel today is a day for that. That maybe this has been happening to you. Your sort of character has been like, oh my God, it's what it felt like to me last week. Oh my God, I can't go on like this. And this had been going on for some time. Of course, Jesus is always working with us in the background. And one of the beautiful miracles that actually happened with all of this, and Jesus has been talking to me for some time about this, and he's saying to me, you keep identifying with your false personality and you keep wanting to make it real, and you are continuously confirming it to yourself by sharing your story. And this is generating fear, and this is generating guilt, and this is generating shame. And you don't have to do that any longer because you have come further than you think. And it's almost like you're just stuck in regurgitating what the past is, but you're not allowing the newness, the brightness of your mind to reveal itself to you through wanting to continuously identify with the false ego sense of self. And so somehow I haven't been able to do this, but I've just been seeing it, each time I sort of share something that feels like that was actually to confirm that I was an ego rather than to confirm that I was spirit. I felt beaten. I felt like I was failing, like I was worthless and upset with myself, really. And so it was good just to keep looking at it, and I had a beautiful miracle with it actually, because I was sharing with my friend Nana. We were just like talking, and I had this beautiful miracle. And what happened is when I was younger, I had this problem. Me and this guy had this problem, and we just argued. We got violent with one another. It just became a complete and utter mess. And so I've been wanting to forgive this for so long. And in my dreams, we would be clashing again and getting back into it, and it would really sort of stir me up. And then this week, in my dream, we had become friends, and it was like I had decided. I just went, look, I'm sorry. I'm just sorry for everything. Like, we were friends before this. I don't know where it went wrong really, but I'll just play my part and I'm sorry. And it was like the whole place was like yellow, like as if we were like sort of like beaming. And he sort of like looked at me and he had no words. It was just like, yeah, it's done. There's nothing there. And so I sort of woke up and was like, wow, that's a complete difference than what the dreams and the nightmares that I'd been having. And somehow and of course that's me letting go of this identity. And so I wanted to share. So I was talking with Nana, and I wanted to share that. And all of a sudden, it was like I wanted to sort of like say the reasons why all of this had come about, and get into the story of what had happened. And then all of a sudden, there was like this strength in me that sort of come over me and was just like, no, wait. And I was able to wait, and I was like, no, I don't have to. I don't have to share that part with you. I can share. I can share the miracle with you now. And it was like, wow, I can really do this. Like, it's not about looking at the error, it's about looking at the correction, and let's enjoy the correction. And so it's just been that self-sabotage of just like, oh, let's just beat myself up again, over these things, rather than enjoying the miracle of what happened. And so that just felt like a big shift. It was almost like what Jacqueline shared last week. She had this grievance in the group, and it was almost like, okay, I'm gonna right, teach them a lesson. And it was like, no, I need to stay with myself. I don't need to confirm this. I just need to forgive it in my mind. And of course, it was like everything was already forgiven in my mind, and now it was to give the miracle away, really, and just say, hey, this is what's happened, and it's beautiful, and I'm grateful, and this has gone on for like, this is like a 15-year forgiveness program. It's like, God, when am I going to give up? But yeah, now it's like, oh wow, I can see that shift. But it's more that it's like the identity. It's like, no, I don't want to be identifying with that. And so through these prayers, in one morning I was sitting there and I was praying, and I woke up and I felt great. It was like there was nothing really like clouding my mind. I just felt good. I felt very, very peaceful, and I just thought, yeah, this is everything. This is wonderful. I want to experience this all the time. And I thought to myself in that moment, yeah, why do I keep identifying with that character that isn't true? So in my prayer, I said to Jesus, I want to associate with something that's real, Jesus. I want to keep this going today. Like, I'm feeling so happy. Like, okay, give me another step. Show me my real identity. And so as I was sitting in there, being peaceful and just being nice, he said, yeah. He said, Nat, he said, I've got a statement for you. And he said, you can use this now. He said, because this is your true identity. And I said, oh, wonderful. I can't wait to hear this. He said, yeah, here we go. He said, what you can say to yourself is you can say, I am Christ. And he said, and that is your true identity. And so I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. And so I just sitting there in my meditation, and every time my mind slightly wandered, it was just, I am Christ. And just this peace was just emanating from me. And it was like, wow, this feels much better to associate with this than my false identity. And it's like, yeah, you can let go of that mask, and I have a much better identity waiting for you. That's for sure. And that's the truth. And so that's been a beautiful gift to me this week. So I wanted to share that with you all. And that's all to do with really these sessions of just keep opening up and just wanting to see what is in my mind. And so this is for all of us, that you are the Christ. And that's what Jesus wants us all to know. So I'm feeling pretty grateful. Yeah, you are the Christ.
It's a great topic. Drop the
Yeah.
mask, because I saw an article on the internet today, and it was actually an article by John Travolta, the actor, and his wife of over 20 years of marriage, Kelly Preston, had passed away a while ago of cancer, and he was just describing. I think the title of the article was "Grief is Personal," and I thought, yeah, that's really it is that when we grieve the loss of a loved one, um, it's a very personal state of mind. It's not really the miracle channel, as you were talking about, Ken. It's another channel. And when I saw grief is personal, and a lot of times when people see the topic like of dropping the mask, they think of dropping the personality self, and it's a lot of spiritual teachers talking about, letting go of the personality self, letting go of the personality self, but really, I think before you can drop the mask, I mean, of course, Greek, I guess it's the Latin persona, is mask, and so people associate the mask with personality. And when they say drop the mask, it's often thought of drop the personality. But Jesus says, well, you really have to know, have a better context than that, because it's more than that. That's not really what it's about. Like, for example, John Travolta, he was an actor, so an actor plays a part in a movie like Phenomenon, or uh, a television show, Welcome Back, Kotter, or something like that. And that's the mask associated with the personality self. But when we're talking about drop the mask, Jesus says in the Course that the self concept is basically everything that you perceive. So those stars that you look at night are part of the mask. Those clouds that you see during the day, those are part of the mask. The mountains are part of the mask. Your body is part of the mask. Your friends, your family, your partner, they're all part of the mask. It's a cosmic mask. I always call it a cosmic fig leaf. And years ago, the Bee Gees did a song, "How Deep Is Your Love?" How deep is your love? And Jesus is saying, how big is your mask? Don't think of it just as a personality self, because that's what an actor might do, like walk off stage and say, I'm going to leave that character on the stage. I'm going home now. I'm off work. And when you associate the mask with the person that you believe you are, it's too small. Jesus says in the self-concept section, self versus self-concept, that it's basically the whole world you see. So everything that you perceive when you watch the news, or if you see something, a live stream from some location on a beach somewhere in Australia, will say on the internet, that's all part of the mask. Everything that your five senses present to you is the mask. It's not the person. That's so tiny. That little tiny speck of dust is not the mask. And so when Jesus talks about healing in the Manual for Teachers, and he said the mind and not the body is the decision maker, he said, what does this recognition cost you? He's talking about healing. How is healing accomplished? What does this recognition cost you? This recognition that the mind and not the body is the decision maker. It costs you the whole world you see, Jesus says. That's all it costs to wake up. It just costs you one thing, the whole world that you see. And that's why when you talk about avatars and enlightened beings and everything. That's why it seems to be so rare. You know, Jesus seemed to come along 2,000 years ago, and he was the first speaking from this purely enlightened state. But it's not like there's bunches, because why? Because it costs you the whole world you see. And to the ego, that is too big of a price. It's like, oh, I'll come back later for that one. I actually am not going to go for that. That's a little pricey to the ego. What the whole world, but remember, you know, what profiteth a man if he gain the whole world and lose his soul? The Bible tells us. And basically, that's what Jesus is saying in the Course. Now, what Kenneth was talking about before was this thing inside that not only wants to associate with the person, and it does that to make up as part of the false identity. So the mind, when it's asleep, it associates with the body and a world external to the body, and with these other characters, and with this environment, and a local environment, and seemingly a cosmic, we'll call it, cosmic environment. And it's doing that because it's afraid of love. It now thinks it's done something real. It's found a new home other than heaven, and it's become so attached and associated with this cosmic mask that it has no intention of giving it up. That's the ego's basic stance. No way. If that's what it costs, no way, not a fair trade. The ego sees it as, oh yeah, give up the whole world, and then what? Oblivion. For the ego, that is oblivion. So it's not, you can see why the ego doesn't want to go and open to this miracle and to this light, because it seems to be an oblivion for the ego. And yet, there's this mechanism in the mind called judgment that Andy was reading about in the prayer, where basically he's saying it's not that you shouldn't judge, but you cannot. This little mechanism in the mind, it's always going good food, bad food, feeling well, feeling bad, oh, beautiful, ugly. You know, this little, almost like a binary on-off switch in the mind that's just judging everything. How do I feel? Oh, it's a little hot in here today. Hot, cold. How are we doing financially? Oh, we're doing good. No, it's a bad day. We lost at the stock market. It's just judging, and it's this impossible habit. And as Andy said, it's just that you have to recognize for an instant that you can't do it, that you never have been able to use this mechanism in a helpful way. It never has been helpful to try to judge. You cannot judge. And then he goes on to tell us that while you believe in judgment, the Holy Spirit will use it. Like it will give you guidance to unwind you from this self-concept of a cosmos that you believe you are. So I think that's helpful, because like Kenneth, what you were saying is the reason you felt so stuck was this respect thing. It was like, Kenneth deserves respect. Bottom line, like, don't mess with this, because if you don't give Kenneth respect, then Kenneth won't give you respect, and Kenneth is not going to be easy to get along with if Kenneth doesn't get the respect. But ultimately, it was the prayer of I am Christ that brought the stillness. Because the Christ is more accurate, and it's literally beyond the whole cosmos. It's literally the I am presence prior to the cosmos. So as you start to just open up and tune into that, then you can start to feel the joy, the love, the happiness, like it's like that song that the Carpenters sang, On Top of the World. That I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation, and it's just so joyful. There's wonder in everything I see, but the mask that you really have disidentified from is the whole cosmos. It's not a person. If you just keep it as a person, it's going to be a struggle, because the ego is just going to keep trying to reinforce that person. Oh, good story, bad story, good story, bad story, good event, bad event, to this, to that. It's just going to keep using the judgment to try to keep you feeling guilty. And you can't try to just get rid of one piece of the jigsaw puzzle. You've got to be willing to let go of the whole puzzle. Because if you're just focused on one piece of the jigsaw puzzle, then you're going to feel disappointed. And you're going to be wondering, what am I doing wrong? Why won't this piece go away? And Jesus is saying, well, you just got it wired too small. You have to realize that the entire perceptual world is the veil. It's not the personality self. That's not the problem. That little piece in the jigsaw puzzle is not the problem. It's a perceptual problem. It's the jigsaw puzzle of many pieces of a fragmented photograph, we'll call it, that's the problem. And seeing it in a holistic way, seeing everything is in your mind. Nothing is outside your mind. Not a star, not a galaxy, not a quasar, not a black hole, not a mountain, not an ocean, not a molecule, not an ant. Nothing is outside of me is the first realization in letting the world go. That the world is a world of ideas, and that you're not going to take a piece of the world and try to identify with a piece anymore. You have to go open up to the holistic view of things, and not try to resolve it down there. And so just this idea of personalities, that is a common thing. People have this ticker tape of judgments, because there's so much unworthiness associated with this whole fragmented perception, that most of the guilt gets dumped onto the person. There's heavy shoulders in most people's awareness, because it feels so heavy. It feels like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulder. And that's because the ego is trying to project the guilt onto the person. You may say, oh, I'm not political anymore. Oh, I'm not too concerned about the environment anymore. I'm not too concerned about what's happening in Ukraine or in Saudi Arabia. It's not, no, I don't really, I'm pretty indifferent to that. But when it comes down to the person, that's where the guilt gets dumped. And the guilt is in the mind. It's just a mechanism for reinforcing the separation. Even when the body seems to show symptoms, that's where the ego is trying to project the guilt out onto symptoms on the body in a very direct way. And sickness seems to be a pretty strong witness. If you're identified with the body in the person, then it seems to be like a vicious cycle. Like, I'm a course student and I've got these symptoms, then it gets even more intense, because it seems to be a contradiction. So I think we picked a good topic to go down the rabbit hole with, because we can't keep thinking of the mask as a person, as a persona. That's just Jesus is saying, you've got it wired too tiny there. You're just trying to keep wiggle around this piece of jigsaw puzzle, and that's why you're frustrated, is because you have to realize that nothing in the perceptual world has brought happiness. It takes an honesty, to start to realize that nothing in time and space has ever brought eternal happiness. That's kind of the bottom line. That's the starting point for spiritual awakening, is you start to just get honest and say, wow, I tried it on my own, so to speak, and it didn't work. So I need help. And then you go from there.
Yeah, thank you for that, David. Yeah, I was just thinking about, how do we do that? And so it's like, as I'm looking around, like I perceive walls around me, and I perceive a chair, and I perceive a bed and a light. And so these seeming objects are seemingly outside of me. And so what you're saying is actually I have to forgive all of this as the perception, as if this is actually real. It seems pretty real. And so the actual task is to forgive all the objects and everything that I'm seeming perceiving from the good and the bad. As Jesus says, the good cloud your perception as much as the bad things, but yeah, it's everything really. So are you saying that we should, I am the light, for example? I'm seeing like my light over there, and it's like that light is me. It's not outside of my mind. Is that what we need to do? Recognize that I have invented the world I see to change my perception.
Yeah, it's like that topic I explored with Frances this morning on her podcast. Let all things be exactly as they are. If imagine if you made a jigsaw puzzle and sometimes it takes a while to get all the pieces into a big jigsaw puzzle, because it's a lot of pieces. But once you get there's a certain satisfaction when you get that final piece into the jigsaw puzzle. And that's what Jesus is saying. He's saying, the world that you perceive is not the problem. It's just the wish in your mind that things be different than they are. That is the problem. So the ego's plan of salvation is, if something in the world changed, I would be happy. And the Holy Spirit's plan is, if I can just accept everything in the world exactly as it is, I'll be happy. So those are diametrically opposed things. One is a grievance, like with your dream of your friend, Ken. It was like, the judgment was something has gone wrong, and we were friends, but then what comes after the but is, now we're at each other. And so you see, with that kind of story, then it's like, if something would change in the world, if something would change, then we would find our peace and happiness. So this goes against the whole drive in the mind of self-improvement. It's the drive to make up the world a better place. It's a drive to fix problems. It's the drive of the human condition that says something is wrong with the world and something needs to be fixed in the world. And Jesus is saying, no, it's actually not the world that needs to be fixed. It's your perception of the world. It's your wish for things to be different than they are. That is the grievance. And you only have to let go of that wish. It's this tiniest, it's the ego, it's a feather of a wish. It can't even hold weight. It's so nothing. It's like a feather. But if you give your mind's energy to that feather, then you're going to have struggle. You're going to have the guilt and the shame and the pain, because it's almost like you got a Rubik's Cube going and you can't seem to work it out. You know, you just keep doing the Rubik's Cube thing every day, and you keep flipping, 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 hoping that things will turn out right, believing that there's some form of the illusion that it's going to be the right combination. And then Jesus tells us in the Beyond All Idols section of A Course in Miracles, pretty late in the text, he says, your will is universal and cannot be content with form of any kind. So it's as if we're in a mindset where we're looking like, okay, Jesus, God, if this just turns out this, and this, then I solve the Rubik's Cube. And he's saying, no, your will is universal and cannot be content with form of any kind. You will never be satisfied with the picture as long as it's got some kind of a personal element, like a person getting the right thing. I mean, if you look at it in terms of relationships, most people I talk about, they do say to me, I believe in the concept of soulmate, and one day my ship is going to come in. What does that mean? What we're going to meet. And then what happens? Well, the birds sing la 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 la, and everything goes happy. Everything goes happy when I meet the soulmate. Or maybe it's around a job, like, oh, I've got my ideal job. If I get that job, I know I will be happy. Or if I have children, I know I'll be happy. Or if I make it through the workbook of A Course in Miracles, the 365, I know I'm going to be happy. I pray I'll be happy after this workbook, you know. But there's some kind of outcome planned that is associated with the happiness or the salvation. Or it could be the flip side. It's like, oh, if only this would stop in my life, I would be happy. I have one thing that if it just keeps repeating like Groundhog Day, and if it just would stop, I will be happy. But that's still the wish for something to be different. You see, it's still saying something in the world should be different. And Jesus is telling us it's just your perception. If you let all things be exactly as they are, you're back in the present moment. You're free. In the present moment, all things are exactly as they are. But if you keep getting into hypotheticals, oh, coulda, woulda, shoulda, and this will be so much better if it was different, then that's like a hamster wheel. It just has no end to it. You just seem to go round and round and round if you want something of the world to change. So in the end, he says, accept the atonement. He doesn't say generate the atonement. He doesn't say make the atonement. He doesn't even say invent the atonement. He puts one word in front of the atonement, which is correction, and that is accept. Accept. Isn't that a great word? Accept. And what he's saying is, if you can just accept all things exactly as they are right now, then you are back in the moment where you've always been. But if you play this game of identifying with the body and hypotheticals, then it's like Rubik's Cube that just goes on and on. That's why they call it hell. There is no solution. You can do the Rubik's Cube over and over and over, but you don't ever get to the point where all the sides are the same color. You just are like, what the hell is this? This game is not seeming to end. It's very tiring. And that's because it's an impossible situation. There is no way to solve the world's problems through hypothetical thinking, through changing something in form. Even give up your ideas of world peace. You know, I one time had I was at a gathering and somebody was telling me, pray for world peace. And I said, okay, well, what would that look like for you? And they said, well, if all the fighting stopped in all the world, then we would have world peace. And I would say, what, no fighting? They said yes, no more bombs. Where bombs were all gone, and then the guns were all gone, and the weapons were all gone. And I said, what about judo and karate? And they said, okay, everybody's strapped up. Nobody's allowed to do any judo, karate, punching, biting, kicking. I said, okay, that's good. And I said, what if somebody frowned? What if somebody frowned at somebody else? Okay, no frowning allowed. No frowning at all. And I said, what if their face was like kind of frozen, but you could tell by their clenched teeth, they're going, son of a gun. There's no bombs, there's no guns, can't karate you. But they're thinking, if I could get you, I would get you, and and they started laughing because I said, oh, it's the thoughts. Because even if you take away the bombs, the guns, the karate, the frowns, and you still have a thought where you say, son of a gun, if I could get you, I'd get you. Then I said, okay, so I made the point. If you want world peace, you have to be peaceful in your mind, because you can't control the world to bring about peace. You have to find it inside yourself. You have to have peaceful thoughts. You have to have your mind aligned with God. You have to be in that I am Christ presence, the I am presence, to have a peaceful world, because there is no such thing as world peace if you're not peaceful. Because the world is not apart from your mind. The world is a reflection of your consciousness. So then, if you start to see that that's the case, then you start to devote your entire mind energy. You give your whole life to this forgiveness thing. You're not going to mess around. It's not like, well, once I get my career in order, then I'll get onto the peace train. Once you realize how important your peace of mind is, I mean, literally, world peace depends on your state of mind. So that means you have to really be about this forgiveness. You have to really be about purification. Purified, blessed are the pure of heart, Jesus said, for they shall see God. And then everything else takes a second back seat to that. So that's the only thing I did in my life. I was in my late 20s, just about the time in the human development when you're supposed to be settling into your career and starting a family and getting a mortgage, and it's like late 20s. That's about the time you're supposed to get with the program. And Jesus was like, well, you get with my program, which is forgiveness. This is about the salvation of the world. And believe me, as long as you have ego beliefs and thoughts, then you're going to see a fragmented world. There's not going to be salvation until you release this ego belief. So it puts it in a different context. It shows you how important this is. This is like the most holy goal you could be called to. It's the top of the mountain, so to speak. And then all you have to do is decide, how willing am I to say yes to this goal? And ultimately, you're just saying yes, remember, to the present moment. You're not saying yes to some kind of big thing in form, like you have some kind of giant mission that you've got to figure out. You don't have to figure anything out. But you're saying yes to the present moment. You're saying yes to stay in the moment, to stay in the now, and to surrender your will into the now. which is where God's will is. God's will is not in the future or the past. I'll give you a hint. If you search for God's will in the future or the past, you're not going to find it. But if you open yourself and you say, no, this is important, and if I say yes to really go for this, then everything I seem to need to experience my will and God's will are one will be given me. And that's the way, it's like a fairy tale. I think my whole parable to David is just a fairy tale, that everything came so effortlessly. It came so easily. It came so fast. It came so immediately from the prayer of I want to know your will. Father, what is your will for me? That's the prayer that ignites the heart.
Yeah, I was just thinking, David, as you were talking, and the lesson that was coming to my mind is that I don't perceive my own best interests, and the not knowing that I don't know. And it seems to be that there's a lot of knowing what's happening, and that is the confusion in the mind, in the perception, and that it's actually that I don't know the way. I don't know anything, and I don't know my best interest under any circumstance, as Jesus teaches. So it seems like we're pointing back to that, and letting go of a personal journey, or that we know the way that I've been teaching myself for so long, and now it's to actually let go of that. And that's what it feels like. It seems like it's sort of like these battle of these wills, doesn't it? It's like, but what if I let go, of this self-identity? And of course, I'm just, it comes back to the same thing, really, is that I cannot guide myself, but there is one that can guide me. And that if I don't know, then I have to allow something that does know to show me the way. Because otherwise I'm going to continue to be lost, and I don't know how to change my mind, because I think that becomes part of it, doesn't it? In a way, everything that you've talked about, it's like it then sort of comes back to, okay, great, I've then got to just change my mind about all this, but in actual fact I have to allow my mind to be changed, to allow it to be revealed, to allow it to be shown to me. So I'm not making that same mistake again, as if there's a body identity within this form. It's actually, as you said, with what Andy was sharing, is that relinquishment of judgment, that I cannot judge. I cannot judge anything. And again, that comes back down to, I do not perceive my own best interest in this circumstance, and to wanting the Holy Spirit to actually show me the truth. And then the other part was, getting the, it's prayer. It's actually what do you really want? And it's, I'm just reminded of lesson 185. I want the peace of God. And if you meant this, if you really meant it, to say it is nothing, but to mean it is everything. And so it always comes really back down to this prayer. And it's actually very, very subtle of wanting this world, as you were sort of sharing, I've sort of given up on these wars in the world. I've given up in animal cruelty, and I'm not getting so involved with all of these things, so I'm doing pretty good. But that actually really is again still the tip of the iceberg. That it has to be that peace of mind is my one goal. That has to be that has to be truly wanted. I remember you shared actually some years ago where a friend shared, and they said, I want the peace of God, and you said, very, very good. And then a week later, I'm not experiencing the peace of God. What's going on? Everything that's not the peace of God seems to be coming up right now. Yeah, very good. When you want the peace of God, you're actually, that was a very good prayer, because now you're going to see exactly what you do want and all the pain and suffering that's seemingly happening around you. It's like, yeah, that's what happens when you actually pray these things, you know. The ego seems to roar up and try and make the world more real to you. And as you said, it's almost like if I'm trying to fix it in form, there's just another problem. I mean, it's like me, for example, you know, maintenance. Like if my goal was, well, we've got 3 houses here, and one day I will have all of these houses in perfect condition, and then finally I will be happy. And then it's like, this wall's falling down. Oh my God, no. We've got a leak. Oh no. And I'm running around and I'm trying to fix this form and saying, Jesus, when are you going to give me a chance? I just want to fix everything in this form. And then when that's all done, I'm going to be happy. And he's like, yeah, the reason why this is all happening is because you're not going to find yourself there, and you've got to come back to me. And this is the whole teaching, you know. You're never going to finish the temple. You're never going to get Quantico House right. And it's like, God damn it. it seems so real, you know, that like, it's like that problem solving thing. And it's the same with the personality, isn't it? It's like, well, if I just solve all these seeming personal problems, then I'm going to feel better. Or if I solve my circumstance in the world, then obviously that's got to be a good thing. And we all know that, don't we? You know, oh, I'm going to change jobs. You know, my last job was absolutely hell, and I'm going to change my other job. You see the person a week later, how's the job going? Oh my God, it's absolutely hell. I hate it. It was worse than the other job. You know, it's like, I can never get it right. But again, as you're just sharing with us, that it's coming back to this perception that I'm really seeing everything wrong. Like, even like I am talking to people in a Zoom room is death. You know, it's like, okay, you're dead again. There's like literally nothing going on, and I'm like, I'm trying to convince you, David. I'm like, no, but I'm seeing all these people and they want to talk to us, and you're like, no, it's not really happening. And we're in this Zoom call and it could drop and all things could happen, and you're like, yeah, just let it all go. Let all things be exactly as they are. So yeah, I feel so blessed for that, David. Thank you always for taking us deeper and just showing us the truth of our mind, so that I'm sure we've all just experienced that. And I know that I'll be so looking forward to just listening back and just taking that back in. And you know, in this moment, I'm already feeling the relief, to be fair. So it's like, it's literally now.
Yeah, I had an idea to. I think I could, in some sound, I could summarize the seeming fall from grace and then what we just talked about. So it starts with, oops, uh-oh, ugh. And what that means is, oops, uh-oh, and ugh is I'm stuck. That's the ugh part. First it's a oops, uh-oh. You know, you ever see kids go, uh-oh, they go, oops, uh-oh, ugh. So ugh is stuck. Now, when you get to the ugh part, then the Course, Jesus says, change is the greatest gift that God bestowed on his sleeping son. Once you've gone through oops, uh-oh, and ugh, and you feel you're stuck now, like, uh-oh, I'm stuck here. I'm stuck. Then change is the greatest gift that God bestowed on his sleeping son. And yet we have to be very careful of what that change is, because it's not changing the world. It's changing your mind about your mind. It's changing your mind about the oops, uh-oh, ugh. That's what has to change. The mind that believed in oops, uh-oh, ugh. that mind has got to go, okay, show me the way. I don't know. Now I need help. If I've gone, oops, then I need help. And he's saying that's why you need forgiveness. You need a new purpose. The world was made in hatred. You need forgiveness, which is really love. It's the purpose of love in your mind. And what does that mean? Change. When I asked Jesus, what does that mean? Change your mind about your mind. He said, accept its changelessness. You have to realize that what God created perfect cannot be changed. You cannot change innocence. You cannot change perfection. You cannot change spirit. It is beyond it. But once you do the oops, ugh, then you must change your mind. And of course, that will cost you the whole world you see. Because what is the world but the temporary, right? Even the stars we burn out in the sky. They're just burning gases. There's nothing constant in this temporary world. So we have to disidentify from it, and we have to identify with God. I am as God created me is one of those ideas that's repeated throughout the workbook. And he's just saying, here, take this. This is your life raft now. Oops, ugh, no problem. Life raft. I am as God created me, you know. He's like, grab a hold of this one. And he repeats this lesson over and over. He's like, what this one lesson will set you free, he says. He comes right out. I am as God created me. One lesson will take you free. So that's really what you were saying, Kenneth, when you went into your meditation. I am Christ. That's it. That's the life raft. That takes you out of the ugh and shows that there were never an oops or an or an ugh. So that's good. Well, we're going to have a lively interaction today, I'm sure.
Yeah,
This is a good one.
yeah. Would you like to open it up now, David? Should we do
Yeah,
that?
that sounds great. I see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hands already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. And we can actually go with Aman first. Um,
Hello.
Hey,
Hi,
Aman.
Aman.
Hi, David. How are you?
Very good. I got your message that you said your mother was very ill and you were
Yeah,
asking me to hold her in my
yeah.
prayers. So I have been holding her in my prayers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David. Actually, that was the issue that I wanted to discuss. She has been tested positive for COVID, and my father also tested positive yesterday. Even though he is not in that much, fever or anything, but she has been in a lot of suffering. And so the last like 2-3 days were very difficult for me. And so I could see this lot of fear. Gradually it was building up, and there was an unconscious pressure and fear of losing her, like, and all kinds sorts of things were coming in my mind. And so but what I really wanted to ask you was like what like I want to know what it is that I need to understand, what it is that I need to see to be completely free from what is happening in the external world. Like, how can I be absolutely peaceful and completely free, irrespective of what is happening with her, or whatever is happening with my father. And I want to understand, like, what is it that I am really feeling fearful about? Is it really my mother, whether about the condition of my mother, is that in like at the core, what is it that is really making me feel, you know, fearful or stressed or feel pressure? And I just wanted to understand, I just want to know like what it is that I need to observe, what it is that I need to understand to be free from whatever happens with either with my mother or father, or in general. Like sometimes I get very affected when I see somebody, you know, like in India there is so much of poverty and so much of suffering. So when I see people, a lot of people in so much of suffering, so that again affects me. But with my mother and my father, it 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 is a lot more intense. So I want to understand, David, like what is it that I need to understand to be free from, like I was really first 2 3 days I was just praying that she should get recover, somehow she should recover. But I see that this is not really the solution, because even if she recovers, what is the guarantee, like after 2 years again she might fall ill, or my father may fall ill, or something else might come up. So this is like an unending process. So what is it that I need to see, and what is it that I need to realize to be free from, irrespective of whatever is happening? That's what I wanted to discuss.
Thank you, Aman. But the, your mother and your father are symbols of the past. They're very obvious symbols for everyone who is dreaming in this world, because they're so strong of symbols, is because they seem to be associated with the birth of Aman. So it's that strong of an association, and also with those symbols, they've been there for you for all these years of your earthly life, and so they represent the known, they represent the familiar, they they are family, as we call it in this world. They, and we're taught, you know, your family is there to love you, and so they're actually associated with love, but actually they are the past. And what you're afraid of letting go of is the past, because the ego has said, if you let go of the past, then what? What's left of you? You know, what will be left of you? It's very afraid of yielding to this moment, this present moment, because love is this present moment. And that is the fear of love. It's an enormous fear of love. Now, I was blessed that I could fly from Sweden and to Delhi, and Aman is what he was my tour guide of India in Delhi and Rishikesh. Thank you for that. And you gotta love India, because everything of the past is in your face. You get out, you're in the city, and you get out away from it, and you are faced with the human condition in your face completely. And we'll say that that's the past. You're faced with the belief in the past. And to the extent that you value the world, we'll say the past, it can be extremely intense. And especially now with what's going on with COVID in India in particular, India has always been known for its diversity and its intensity, this intense heat, intense monsoons, intense poverty. You have had Bollywood. You got intense poverty and Bollywood in the same country. You know, it's kind of like all the images of the world are like really up in your face, but that's what forgiveness is for. That's where you have to realize that you're just afraid of letting go of the known. You're just afraid of letting go of the familiar, because what comes beyond that is now the unknown. Even though I'll say the unknown is the only thing that's knowable. You can't really know anything of this world, but you can know the truth. You can know the light. So I'm glad you're bringing this up in the context of this conversation, because you can see that it starts off with a prayer for your mother, but as you go deeper with the prayer, you start to realize that it's our heart that is praying, that we're praying for a release. We're praying to release the fear, because there's a deep fear there. There's a buried fear, and that's what it is. It's letting go. I know in the parable of David, when I seemed to be like 20, 28 years old, when the course came, and I opened it and I read it and I felt this huge love and everything. But the ego was going, uh-oh. I mean, that's what the ego said when I picked up the course. I opened the course, I started to read it, and the ego said, uh-oh. And now I've met two people. I was talking to Frances the other day, and she said, you know what, David, when I first met you, you know what thought went through my mind? And I said, no, what was the thought? And she said, I will die. Frances told me that's the thought. That's the thought that she said. And she said, I'm still here. So obviously, physically, it wasn't something, but that was the ego going, uh-oh. She said, I will die. And then I have another friend over in England who I met at a gathering in Manchester. And when she first met me and she first hugged me, the first thought in her mind was, I will die. that's not something to be great to be known for. Oh, it's the I will die guy. you meet him and right away your mind goes, I will die. But that's those cases, it's the ego. I said, no, rest assured, don't take that into physical. I said, but in psychologically, for the ego, that's what's the feeling. So that's why you're here today, Aman. And it's so good to see you again. And we're so grateful that you shared that, because that's just a beautiful dive into the light. Yeah. So thank you.
Oh yeah, you want to say one more thing?
Yes. Hi. Yeah, thanks, Ken. Thanks for letting me. David, one thing that I've been struggling with this issue is like I feel like if I feel, whenever I feel little bit of peace, then I start feeling guilty that I'm being so insensitive towards my mother. Like, she is suffering so terribly, and how can I be, peaceful and joyful when she is suffering? Like how insensitive it is of me if if she is suffering so terribly and I am, peacefully sitting and enjoying my life, or I'm in joy. So that is creating a lot of guilt, and it seems like a block. And if you could say anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, I had that when I would go to a funeral, when I would feel joyful at a funeral, the ego was screaming at me on the inside of my mind that I was a hypocrite. But actually, Jesus wanted me not to be inappropriate and go like dancing around like a Woody Allen movie, dancing. He sometimes will poke fun at death, but actually it was really feeling the deep peace and the joy, and letting it just move across your whole perception of the world, and including your mother. Peace starts within, like I was sharing earlier, and then it radiates to the whole world. And I know that from Ken. And Ken is in his joy. There's nothing else in the world that is amiss. It wouldn't matter. He's like a firecracker of joy, and you can feel it. And you start to realize that how you experience yourself is how you experience the world. It's only the ego that will tell you that there's an external world apart from you that where something's wrong. And of course you would feel guilty if you felt happy and peaceful and joyful and you perceived pain and suffering and sickness, then there's a big split there. You know, then that's what the ego is trying to do, saying, oh, you're happy, but something else is gone very wrong, and then you feel guilt. So that's a huge lesson, but that's the lesson I talked about at the beginning, that there is no world apart from what you think. That is lesson 132 in the workbook of the Course. First, he says, there is no world apart from what you think. And then he goes to the next step, and then he says, there is no world, period. And you don't make it to there is no world, period, until you first embrace there is no world apart from what I think. That this is a world of thought. Imagine you were in heaven and nirvana and light, and then you suddenly were in a realm where your thoughts seem to be manifest as a world. That's like Walt Disney. It's like animation. Suddenly there were characters and images and colors. And then the ego says, Aman is separate from that world. Aman is the subject, and the world is the object. Aman is the observer, and the world is the observed. That's what Krishnamurti always talked about. There is no observer and observed. You know, all the great Indian teachers, you know, there's lots of them, have always taught there's no difference between the subject and the object. There's no difference between observer and observed. And that's what you're facing. The ego is trying to do that observer trick with you, because it's saying, oh yeah, Aman is peaceful, but my mom is not. Then you still feel guilt. But that's a misperception. That's just an ego trick. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Aman.
Thank you, Aman. Next up is Christoph.
Okay, that was quick. Hello, everybody. Hi, Ken. Hi, David. Hello, everybody. First thing, like 3 weeks ago, I was crying and I was sad because I was confronted with the fear of God, and I just can't find that fear anymore. It was too crazy, I guess. You know, so thank you just for you being there, and I don't know what happened. It doesn't matter, but that's gone. You know. And David, you were talking about Ken's laughing, and I feel the same about you laughing, Ken. But David, the way you are laughing, I don't know if you get it, you know, because for the ego, you cannot grasp why in God's name he's laughing. And then on another level, it's just such a compassionate and understanding and loving laughter about what's going on. You know, it's just transforming the whole thing. I can't describe it any better, you know, but you can't get it, but it's wow. You know what I mean? It's just, I think it's, for me, it's like the perfect laughter, you know. So thank you for that. You know, I listen to you like every day. And my question is about what you just were telling beautiful Amam about observer and observed, and then there's no world apart from what I'm thinking, you know. I heard you talking like some weeks ago about we have a perceptional problem, and you repeated it over and over again. My ego wasn't getting it, you know, but I just felt the relief, and I went through the days, okay, but everything popping up like, you know, lowering my mood, I have a perception. It was a perfect answer, but I didn't get it, you know. And then listening yesterday, I don't know if you know Rupert Spira, you know, and somebody was talking about becoming one with the tree, and there he started, and then he went back step by step by step by step, and he was really showing that what I am experiencing is just a perception. Like he was really in baby steps, so perfectly leading us like what the dream is all about, you know. And that, of course, came together with you presenting just the end of it. It's a perceptual problem, you know, but then the perfect result, you know, like in school, the math teacher was not happy with just it's 100. You have to show him how you came up to say it's
Right.
100, you know.
Perfect
Otherwise,
back.
just pick it up from your neighbor or something. So he gave me he gave me the math to it. And my question is, and Ken Wapnick was talking about like the decision maker and stuff. My question is just, who is making this whole thing up so consistent? Like it's Thursday and all you guys are there. And next week and in 2 weeks, you know, who is making this perception so consistent? Which is, of course, like the body and all the stuff you were talking about, like a proof for the ego, or something the ego uses to suck us in leaving the sight of this is perceiving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who's making that up?
Yeah. Well, I did refer to that earlier today on here when I said that there's a section in the Manual for Teachers of the course where they ask Jesus and they say, how is healing accomplished? I think that's a pretty good question. If I was going to ask the way, the truth, and the life, that would be one of my first questions. How is healing accomplished? And Jesus says, all it takes is one recognition and you've got it. You're healed. Just one recognition. And that is the mind and not the body is the decision maker. Okay? And then he goes on to say, what does this recognition cost you? It costs you the whole world you see. For the body will never seem to tell the mind anything. It will never seem to have control or meaning. Now let's take that like Rupert, step by step. Let's take it back. If the mind is the decision maker, then I am back into a realm where I can accept the correction. But if I believe the body, if I believe persons have choice, people have choice, I'm not even close to the escape hatch. So the escape hatch is there and it's active. It's not blocked. It's actually an active escape hatch. But as long as I think the body is the decision maker, then that's like an identification with the body. And it would be like saying Christoph decided to chop wood at 10 a.m. in the morning. Oh, really? Who is this Christoph that decided to chop wood at 10 a.m. in the morning? You know, Jesus is saying, you've got to come back. And the whole world is a projection of a belief system that cause and effect are separate, and that something has left the mind. Like it seems like these human beings have minds of their own now. They've got their own minds, their own decision-making capacity. And then all the guilt comes from seeing the decisions in persons. And, you know, like, well, why didn't you pay me the money you said you were going to? And what, you're pregnant? What you know, oh, you're gonna what? You're gonna get an abortion. What about me? Aren't you gonna consult with me? You know, I'm the father. You know, you see how as soon as we get down to decisions being in bodies, it's a mess. There's no escape actually there. And that's what Rupert was doing when he was bringing it back and showing the whole dynamics of how perception arises. It starts with a thought. It starts with a decision, which is a wish. I wish something was different than it is. And it starts with one little wish way back in the mind, and then the character is going, whoops, uh-oh, ugh, I'm stuck. I've got a difficult decision to make. No, people don't have difficult decisions to make. The mind is where the purpose is. The mind is where the forgiveness is. The right mind is what Jesus and Ken Wapnick would say, that's the correction. But he doesn't say right body. He calls it the right mind.
Oh, one sec, you're gonna have to mute him, unmute Andy.
Yeah, unmute again. Yeah.
David, I think I really got this, but then like my today's lesson is I am as God created me, you know? And in my new age times, reviewing it. In my new age times, I would just say, okay, I'm that person and I accept that and stuff. And now, of course, 20 years later, you know. But so then the decision maker is weird somehow. Like Ken Wapnick was using a picture like the decision maker is sitting in a movie, now in a movie theater, you know, right side is Jesus, left side is the ego, and the decision maker is somehow choosing and can choose. So the decision maker is somehow disturbed or something.
Well, Ken, he did talk a lot about the decision maker, and he even named it. He called it Charlie the chooser, because I've studied with Ken for many years. But actually, if you really want to go past some of that, because I know you got a question there, but if you actually go back to the back of the text, we'll say to the rules for decision, this is where Jesus simplifies your question. He gives you the answer. Okay. When you get all the way back there in the text to that rules for decision, he says the ego is a decision and the Holy Spirit is a decision. He does not use the word decision maker when you get back there. He starts to really slice through everything now. He says the Holy Spirit is a decision and the ego is a decision. And the Holy Spirit would be the correction, the escape hatch that we're talking about. And the ego would be the belief in separation, which is not a real decision. It can't be a real decision. You know, if the separation never happened, that cannot be a real decision. So Ken focused a lot on the decision maker, but I've worked with students for 30 years, and I tell them, no, you have to then get to the point where you just realize that right now, this instant, you have the option of the Holy Spirit or the ego. Don't try to bring a third entity into this. This is where I sometimes channel Ken. Ken's like saying, forget what I told you about Charlie. Listen to what David's saying now. I'm coming to you now. That in this moment, which is the only moment we can accept that correction, that's what we focus on. And so that's the mind training, you know, that's what choosing the miracle is. And then the atonement is just like an irreversible allegiance, which is your lesson today. I am as God created me. There's no room for an ego in that. Not the slightest room for a weird decision maker. No, there's no weird decision maker in that. That's like really going into alignment with the correction. And we have, yeah, Amanda, I see Amanda's here. She's just gone through these huge experiences too with Jesus, where there's just alignment, this huge alignment. And that was the whole point of it, you know, was to go into that alignment. That's where the joy comes in. There's Amanda.
Thank you so much, Christoph. Thank you.
Thank you, Christoph. Next up is Daniela.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good.
I was trying to keep this the closest to my heart and not being ego questions about it. Since my recently anxiety attack that I had on February, I guess, I've been undoing the idea of I know. So I've been practicing a lot of I don't know all the time. Like, hey, I don't know, and it's okay because I do have a strong I know mind, and I know everything, and I know what to do. So the past week has been really peaceful. And yesterday I had my appointment with my therapist. Since I'm always praying, I know the spirit really talks through her. And then she asked me this question that it really hurt me. I don't know why, because she was like, you know, Danny, you're always identifying yourself with your body. So you need to, what is Daniela if there's no body? And I was like, it really hits me because I was like, I have no idea. I mean, I may know in my heart that I'm spirit, you know? But I don't know. I don't know who am I if there's nobody, and that made me upset because I am really identified with this body, and I want it to be perfect so much that that's where the anxiety came from, because I was trying to make myself perfect in this crazy world. So yes, I guess I don't really know what my question is, but it's like I have no idea what am I if there's nobody, and I have no experience that show me that there's my spirit. I've been asking for it all the time. I just wanted to express it because I do want to let it go, this identification with my body, because I'm tired. I'm tired of comparison. I'm tired of trying to be perfect because in this world it's impossible. And there's a part of my ego that says, no, it's no impossible. You must try it. You gotta do it anyway. And I'm like, no, I want to accept the things as they are, as they come, and I want to keep not knowing, because it's been great not knowing. It's been a really beautiful experience, but this really hits me because I have to supposedly write down what is Daniela without a body, and I'm like blank, completely blank, and crying about it. But I do want the experience of not knowing who is Daniela anymore. And yeah,
It's beautiful.
I love you all.
We love you too. And we have a movie in our Movie Watcher's Guide to Enlightenment that's called Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and it's based on a story, on a true story, so to speak, by Dan Millman. And I think it could be really helpful for you because Dan, when it starts off with Dan in college, and he's athletic and he's very fit and he works really hard at it too. You know, he's a gymnast, but he swims and he jogs and he lifts weights, and he's very, very focused because that's his he has maybe a scholarship, and his dad pays for his whole college experience. And he's so into the world too. He's got different girlfriends, and he goes and he stands on he does headstands, and he does push-ups off the ground with a beer on his feet to show how strong he is. He does push-ups with a beer on his feet when he's standing that way. And then in that movie, he meets Socrates, and Socrates assisted joy. And it's a lot of experiences where he has to go through even an injury, a major injury to the body, to start to see that he's more than the body. And then in the end, he is in the middle of an Olympic trial, I think, or some kind of a competition, and he's doing the rings, and he is asked by Socrates in his mind, "Who are you? Who are you?" And he has an answer in there that he receives in the middle of his body doing these high-level gymnastics. But it's a really good movie because it's like when you're just praying right now, you're asking, I need an experience. I need to be taken into an experience. And that's what I like about that movie is every time I watch it, I just totally get transported into an experience beyond the body, because it has all the elements that you're dealing with on a daily basis. Is Dan, that he works so hard and he struggles too around the body and realizing he can't be a perfect gymnast, but trying nevertheless for a perfect gymnast body. You know, there's a lot of things that are really parallel. So I think that if you can find it, I don't know what it's called in Spanish. They always come up with really interesting names that they rename the movies. But I think that will be really helpful.
Lovely to see you, Danny.
Thank you, Daniela. And next up is Laura.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Hello. Okay, I want to make this as short as possible. The perception is my dad died in September. He left a house to me and my two sisters. He left an RV and a boat to his best friend that are still parked in the driveway and the garage of the house. We will have a family gathering in July that will require at least the RV to be gone so that people can park there. I sent him an email asking him to move the things, assuming I didn't even think about it being a temporary thing. I thought it would be a permanent thing. He responds to say, I'm happy to move them temporarily. Were you thinking permanently? Because I'd like to keep them at this house for about another year, and I'd like to pay rent. I go to my sisters. What do you think about this response? You know, we could keep them temporarily and accept rent. My one sister responds, we should not take money from dad's best friend. And immediately my mind goes to, why are you, I get very defensive in mind. Why is it your decision? He offered to make the money, to give us the money. Why does it matter who he is? All these things come up. So I go through levels of mind. And I also think back to what you said as far on the Bombshell movie, that the tension and the disagreement is never between the people. So I take that back to mind as well. Ego versus Holy Spirit. And I just write down everything that is kind of getting in the way of me seeing the truth of this situation. And then the desire, when I get to the desire, the true desire of my heart, and in this moment with this specific situation, it seems to be that came to mind was I want to hear the inspired guidance. I want to be in the flow of that, something that will benefit everyone regardless of what it looks like, as far as you know, whether we ask him to move the things permanently, whether we allow him to keep them there and ask for rent, or allow him to keep them there and not ask for rent. And there's a lot of stuff that's been coming up for me lately related to decision and control and that kind of thing. So I guess I did ask, I said, if we are to accept rent, please make it clear. But maybe even that's too small of a question. Please make it clear what I am to do here, I guess is the question, because there are several different options. And I just wanted to know if you had any thoughts, because it really seems like there's like people pleasing in there. There's all sorts of things coming up, and I'm sure in community there has been disagreements, and then and it's about homing in on that inspiration. So I guess I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts related to that.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Well, the first thought that comes to me is like, is there an executor of the will?
Oh, you need to unmute, Andy.
There we go. Yes, and it's not me.
Okay.
And that's part of the control stuff that's coming up.
That's the best part. I love how they have executors of will, because that's the one who's in charge of the decisions. I know with my family, as I went and traveled the world and taught forgiveness and got happier and happier and happier, my parents, they decided to make my sister the executor. They probably looked and said, oh, hell, we're not going to have that guy be the executor of the will, because he's just talking about God and love, he's gone beyond this world. He doesn't have all of his marbles. But anyway, to me, I just love that. Let all things be exactly as they are. I was like, how wonderful. That's a blessing. In fact, my sister's name is Mary Jo, so those are the parents of Jesus. The Holy Spirit has put Mary Jo in charge of that. So, and then that's the way I see things in the world, is everything works together for good. And even things like assigning executors of will it's part of a bigger plan, because we're miracle workers, you know, and we're here focusing on the miracle. Like Ken was saying, you know, choose the miracle. That's where the respect the miracle. That's what we were talking about earlier. And then when things happen, like when I was told, Mary Jo will be the executor of the will, I said, hallelujah, that's so wonderful. That takes that off my mind. Not that it really was on my mind to begin with. But I think in your case, that was what I was hearing when you were speaking, was it is an opportunity to trust. And in the case when somebody's assigned as an executor, I know there are cases where people try to contest things and do all kinds of things, but that's what the ego does as a trick. It's always contesting everything. You know, a guy hits a winning shot on a football game or baseball game. The game's over. It's over. No, let's get the instant replay. You know, there's a protest, a contested, and I thought, wow, everything's contested in this world, but not in our mind. You know, our mind can rest assured in the miracle, which is really a trusting state. But I hear that that's what you're going through now. That's probably the control that's coming up. The ego is wanting its piece of the pie, and it wants to be in on the decisions, which we just talked with Christoph, aren't even there. You know, they're projections of decisions. You know, it's a script. It's a prearranged plan. It's a done deal. But the ego wants to get its fingers in the pie, and it wants to really stick those fingers in that pie instead of just watching the pie.
Yeah.
This is fantastic.
Oh, this is wonderful. Yeah, because it's like, yeah, I've noticed that pattern, and it's like, you know, it's like, what's it got to do with you? You know, that's the kind of bottom line of it, really. And it's like, what we say is here is like, stay in your lane. We use that, stay in your lane. So it's like, I'm not concerning myself with anything that doesn't involve me. So if someone comes to me and say, hey, I've got a question about distribution, I'm sorry, you need to go to Susan about that. Yeah, no, but I just want to share with you about it. Yeah, no, but I actually don't know anything about it. So that's for Susan. Yeah, I can't make any decisions for you because that's actually for Susan. You know, and it's just like, that's got nothing to do with me. You know, I'm not going to be getting involved with any decisions. You know, it's like, and I could see that like before, like, so like, for instance, like Kirsten would be over the house and then I would be getting involved in something and she'd be like, what's this got to do with you? And I'd be like, nothing. You know? Okay, so why are you getting involved with it? Yeah, this is a really, really good point, you know, just sort of like getting it, just yeah, being very mindless. It's like, yeah, peace of mind has become the back goal. And now it's like, oh, I'm going to go out in form and start getting myself into mischief over things that don't even concern me. So I think it's a very, 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 very beautiful thing. You know, David comes up with the perfect thing. Who is in charge of this? Okay, then it's over to them. I can stay in peace of mind. Thank you very much. And it's a beautiful, beautiful lesson, you know. So I think listen back to Francis and David's talk today, you know, let all things be exactly as they are. And Jesus will work that. And that has nothing to do with me, how that's going to work out. So I'm just going to stay with my peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Next up is Jonas and Deborah.
Hello.
Hey, Jonas. Hey, Deborah.
Spain.
We are in
Spain. Spain.
What?
Is it Spain? Are you in Spain or?
Yes.
Yes. Very nice.
I came the 1st of April.
Lovely.
Yeah. So yeah, we have been studying the course together and been living together with no private thoughts, and a lot of good stuff has come up. And then about the 7th of April or something, we were sitting in a park and I was reading This Moment is a Miracle about sickness. And it was saying that sickness gives you this kind of prompt to really go deep. And Deborah and I, we had been talking about doing ayahuasca together. And then it appeared there was a ayahuasca retreat that appeared a week later. So we went there and did 3 days of ayahuasca, 3 nights. And it just felt like getting a big hug from God, showing all the things that the Course and the books about the Course are talking about, the judgments that you describe in This Moment is your miracle as, you know, drinking a little bit. The ego is drinking a little bit every day, so we don't really notice that we are judging how toxic it is. And I was showing it like arrows and spears in my body. And I was just so thankful about getting this kind of these visions and really getting in touch with how deep a sadness it has made me, these patterns of mine. And it felt like the medicine said to me, or spirit said to me through the medicine, I am the medicine. You have to take me. This is safe. Keep taking me. And I feel like I have just been longing for something allowing me to really release like this. And at the same time, I have this kind of worldly belief that ayahuasca is a drug, and I've never done it before. So there is this kind of fear of what people think, but I just feel, I'm just so grateful to get hooked by the light, you could say.
Oh, how sweet. we're thrilled. It's beautiful, Janice. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's like an answer to a prayer of your heart, just to see and to see more clearly. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's very common, where something you feel strongly guided to do seems extremely helpful, and then the ego comes in and says, "What will people think?" Really, that's the oldest trick of the book. It's always got to try to come in and generate some guilt, or compare it to something, or contrast it to something. To make a comparison is to make a judgment, though, so that you can just start to see those thoughts of what will other people think and things. Is just another role of ego judgments, trying to have you forget your hug with God. It's beautiful. Oh, so beautiful to see you both. Wonderful. You're you're on the adventure. That seems to be a pattern here. We I think was it Anna or Francis was renaming the Casa Center co-loving instead of co-living. She said this has turned into co-loving because so many people come together, and then sometimes they're in community, sometimes they're out, sometimes they're on Zoom. So yeah, it's so beautiful though. I'm so happy that you have your mind training partners going through these experiences.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful.
It's wonderful.
Thank you, Jonas. Next up is Sheila.
Hi.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi. It's been like the first time I've been on here, I guess. Never spoken with you, David, or I've sent a couple emails with Ken, and that was quite the hurdle just for me to do that. Right now, I just feel my chest is like, shut up, shut the camera off. About a couple of years ago, I'm in Edmonton, and I go to Sarah's a lot. David, I think you've stayed with Sarah a bit. Yes. And a couple of years ago, there was a little retreat going on, and Andrew and Marie were there. And I had never met them, and I wasn't sure why, but I just kind of jumped up and went to them and said, "Hey, do you need some help with what you're doing?" I wasn't sure what they were doing, and it turned out that it's about a couple of years ago, and I went to go stay with them in Derwent, where they were doing their stuff with their properties. And at that time, there was this experience where I had this like, what the fuck? Did I just create this whole town? Because there was a moment where it was like such a childhood trauma that one of the houses we were in kind of just was like exactly the same thing. It was like, whoa, did I create this town? Did I create these people to come with me and take me here for this? And I was kind of in a weird, well, lack of a better word, and I didn't know. And there was a lot of stuff that had happened. This traumatic stuff was when I was younger in this house, like a shack kind of thing. And it was the sexual stuff, all of that kind of things. And we, sat together and they just held space, and I just broke down about this and this, not knowing what time is for. It's a couple of years ago. So I left that aside. And then there was a retreat. I'm not sure the chronological order, but I think actually Dave or Ken may have started his podcast. And one day I was watching it, and I had my phone and I had it right close to my face. And Ken was saying something. I was just like, Jesus, how did you get in him? Like, what are you doing in there, buddy? Because it felt like that was Jesus speaking to me, no doubt in my mind. And then I had watched one of your retreats, and it was, I think it may have been a holy relationship one. I'm not sure, but you had said something that just struck me. I wrote it down, and it was said, until you're willing to look at the extent of that self-hatred. I don't remember the rest, but it was just to know that that healing wouldn't come from that until you're willing to look. And at that time, I kind of did the whole, I have self-hatred, boom, 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 read about it and thought, I looked at my self-hatred and just kept walking on that path and didn't know what that really meant, even though I've carried self-hatred and I know what that thought is, like you're a piece of whatever, those thoughts, but I didn't know what the extent was. And then with Ken, like there was something after I seen that video with Ken, and it was just something, contact Ken. And I didn't want to, because it was just like, because I don't do Facebook or anything like that. So it was like, how do I contact someone out of the blue and say, hi, you don't know who the heck I am, but I just felt that block. And so I kind of made a deal. I was like, I'm going to send an email to one person I met in an extension group. And I was just like, and I was pretty sure, like I was like, I know that this person won't know, but I was like, hey, do you have Ken's email address from this YouTube show? Right away, boom, I get this email address back. I'm like, shit, that was I'm not going to do this if. So it's like, what's going on? And all of these signs. And I went to Sarah's place and ended up needing, like, we did a clearing, because what happened was, what was blocking to even send that email was such self-hate that I was almost on the floor, but in the chair shaking. It was like, this is self-hate that is not right. Like, I was like, this isn't normal. This is so dark. This is scary shit. And this self-hate was, and then I thought of your retreat about until I'm willing to look at that self-hate. So things went on, and then I did contact Ken. And after that, there was so much of that, like, why that ego backlash bullshit. And it was like, why did you do that? Like, this person, and it was nasty. It was like, this guy's going to think you're a whore. He's going to think you're crazy. He's going to think all of this shit. And it was just nasty. So I was trying to get through that. And and how we don't know how things are connected. Like, and Ken kind of got, after I sent the email, it was like, Holy Spirit was like, well, can't let, like, that ego backlash, we can't have that go on very long, because Ken responded right away. And it was like, oh, thank you. Because that was not good. Like, I think Spirit was like, whoa, let's just take care of this like before that happened. And so that was fine. And then I had looked at some emails, like these texts I had sent, and I noticed that I had sent Andrew a copy of a YouTube video maybe last year. And it was with Ken and Andrew, and it was called Triggers or Opportunities. And I was like, oh, okay, so time is not what I think, and everything's getting messed up and everything's happening. And I haven't been on many shows with the Living Miracles. And then I had tuned in one a couple weeks ago, and it was a time where you had mentioned the movie The Seer. And at that moment, like, it felt, I was so blown away, because a year prior I had that book, like there's 3 books in one, the old manuscript, and I had received that from Amazon, and my bank statement said I bought it, but I don't remember buying it. But when I got it, I opened it and I just started crying, and I fell down holding that book. And I was like, I don't know what this means. And so when you mentioned that on the podcast, there was this, and I don't, like, just this pull, like such a strong pull. And it was like, holy shit, like this strong pull, like towards you, Ken. I'm not even sure like what it was, but then it got so distorted. It was like anger, like it was like this, I don't know if it was like this revelatory, like this love, like this pull to God, but it just got so much anger all of a sudden that it was the next day I woke up and I wanted to rip up the course. I threw the book. I was in a meditation group and I told everyone to fuck off, go fuck yourselves, you're all devil worshippers, and this course is from the devil. I fucking hate all of you, kind of thing. And it was just this rage, which was pretty, yeah, sorry about all the F-bombs, but it was this rage and I didn't know. And then I was in a group and I seen, well, whatever happened there, but a few days ago, last week, I was in a gathering and I was around some people. And when I left, I felt this self-hate again. I felt like I was being like the imposter, like I was pretending to be someone I wasn't, and hating myself for that, like, just because it was like, what are you doing? Like this feeling that. And then today, I was in this meditation. And well, first for the meditation, I realized that like the dates and all of these things, these numbers kind of went together. But I was in this meditation and I could see the guy from the shack from when I was a child. And I seen him and it was like pure, innocent, and just love. And like, oh, feeling like at his feet, like, thank you. I'm sorry that you had to play that role for me, but, you know, thank you. And seeing what I was getting from that. And it was such an emotional roller coaster. I just wanted to, I guess my purpose to get on and share is just to say thank you to both of you. And we don't really know what anything is for. Like, for you to say that line on a retreat, for Ken to answer an email, for all of it, it was just, I don't know what anything is for. And yeah, so I guess, you know, I've been in, you know, tears and having this emotional day, and I just felt to get on and just say thank you. Like, thank you for what you guys do. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheila. That's beautiful. That's so helpful too, because we can't know how in terms of form, but we do know that the presence is working and pulling for us just what we need, just when we need it. So that's what a beautiful witness you are of that, you know, just your willingness to stay open and courageously take one step at a time and trust that it's all coming to you. So how beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's like the ego roars up at these times to really deter us, but it just shows that we're going in the right direction and you haven't given up. And here you are. And I know that this was so frightening for you to come on live, and that's why you wanted to email me. And that was like a huge step, as you just shared, that you went through, and you wanted to have the courage to come on and do this. And really, that's what you're saying. You're saying no to the past in doing this and these old ways in the mind. So it's just, yeah, deep gratitude for you coming forward again and sharing that for us all. So thank you so much for reaching out to me, and now you get to bless everyone. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila. And we're a couple minutes over the top of the hour. Do we want to keep going? We have some hands left.
Let's do 2 more hands, Andy. You can pick them.
Okay, let's go with Anna.
Hi there.
Hey,
Hi, Ken.
hey,
Hi, David. Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, I just wanted to say how, like, listening to you talk about what dropping the mask really meant, and that it's not about the personality or the persona, that it's the whole world just like really clicked in. And actually to bring it like to where I'm at now, and when I left Mexico to come here to rent the house and go back, I just had this feeling that it was guided and it was all going to flow really quickly and easily and happily. And suddenly it's been like 3 months and no one's showing up. The last person that came to see the house, they said they were really interested and then they disappeared. They didn't reply the messages, and in form it doesn't seem to be happening. And there are all these like apparent outside forces, like we had elections 10 days ago, general elections, and country-wise the worst possible scenario happened. So there are 2 candidates going for a second vote, and one is like extreme left, apparent, I don't even know, but this ex sort of terrorist type guy that they're painting him like, and then on the other side it's the corrupt daughter of an ex-dictator that has been in preventive prison for like a year and came out. It's like, and the agent is telling me like, no one's doing anything, the market is still, no one is, they want to see what's happening with the elections and they're not until June. And it's suddenly it's like, am I really believing in all this? Am I making this real in my mind? And therefore what I'm experiencing is this apparent delay? Or on the other side, is it really that, as you were saying in the morning show with Francis, let things be exactly as they are and relax and accept that you are here because you have to be here. And the thought that I was going to be back in Mexico in a month or a month and a half at the most was just a thought, and let it go and accept. So I just wanted to expose that. And if you have like a word of advice or of, yeah, I'm here, and I really want peace of mind, and I know that all the demons come up when you do that prayer. And yeah, I don't know anything.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Yeah, after that podcast and today's show, it's clear that present peace is the plan. And then, there's a part that's helpful in back again with the rules of decision, where Jesus says you have no control over the world you made. And I was talking to Francis when we had that, was it yesterday? We just had our big event on mysticism, Heart of Mysticism, and before it started, we were saying, oh, it's a prearranged plan. Like that's what Helen Schuckman heard before she started even scribing the course. She was given a message to comfort her and calm her down, and Jesus basically gave her the message. People are being called from all over to take their part in a prearranged plan that is part of a celestial speed up. And so we were just both rejoicing in this prearranged part. Even today, before we did the podcast, we were just sitting there and talking about that. So what that does is it starts to give your mind permission, because we can't really go back and analyze the past. And when we do have strong thoughts for how we would like the script to go and future expectations, we start to see, oh, if it's prearranged, then acceptance is our peace. We can only find it. And I was talking to Frances this morning, and she said, yeah, when she grew up in China, there was this thing that was kind of spiritual wisdom that she was saying, reminds me of Ramana Maharshi and lots of people I've heard of Jesus said, but that if something is meant to happen, then you can't do anything to prevent it from happening. And if something is not meant to happen, there's nothing you can do to make it happen. And she said she had this wisdom, and then she got caught up in education and competition for grades and competition for jobs and everything, and all, the wisdom just got stuffed out the window. And so it's good. We can start to laugh and say, oh my gosh, yeah, we're coming back to present acceptance. And even when we hear things about politicians or conditions and so on and so forth, our trust, we can say, no, I would let present trust direct the way, and I would let the present trust bring me the peace right now, which is really the plan. We tend to think of it as a linear thing, and then it gets heavy as soon as we start to think of it as linear. So thank you for bringing that up, because it fits with, the podcast and everything we've talked to today is just giving your mind permission to let all things be exactly as they are, and know that everything comes at the proper moment, and really be able to take a deep breath and a sigh and go, oh yeah, great. That's good. That's what I want to focus on.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, like, there's so many expectations that we put on things, and then that ends up clouding the peace of mind and the joy in this moment, as you said. You were sharing that. It's really about the joy now. And so if there's all these expectations and how things should be going and they're not going that way, then it just creates these feelings inside. And so I was just thinking, the new Spiri bot that's just come back again, it's just like perfect. Just, okay, let me just really, I'm clearing my mind. It's seeming like clearing the house, but really it's like clearing the mind. Like, wow, what am I actually truly believing here? And so clearing all those expectations so you can go back to true joy, because that's what it's really all for. Yeah. Peace of mind. Thank you so much, Anasai. Love you.
Thank you, Anna. Next up is Phyllis.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Phyllis.
I was actually hoping that you wouldn't call on me. I don't have Wi-Fi in my new place, so I'm having to hold my phone. And really, really nervous. Last week, when I shared, I was talking about being vulnerable. And then I had an experience yesterday that just shocked me. It shocked me that how much emotion, how much rage, how much stuff is in there. I had moved to this apartment, and I was in the shower, and the door was open a little bit, and then I heard male voices, and these two men walked in. I guess they were from pest control or whatever, and I can't even tell you what happened. It's like I went on to instant defense mode, and I said, "Is someone there?" They go, "Oh yeah, it's just the pest people." And I don't know. I just went, "Live, get out of my, blank, blank, blank house." But underneath all that protective rage was just this unbelievable vulnerability. And I got dressed really quick, and I went down to the office, and I was so shaken I couldn't speak. And she just looked at me, and I told her what happened, and she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." And then I left, and I came back, and I prayed, and I asked God, what is this for? I just went through this last week, and it was to, what I heard was to show you your beliefs. And I've had such, all my life, my whole life has been about protecting my body ever since I was a small child. And the history of my life, which is not really my history, but, you know, I was beaten, I was stabbed, I was raped. It was just very violent. And I was even by medical professionals. So I've always had to protect my body. And I got really clear when I came home. I saw all that, and I got really quiet, and I asked God, it's like, what is it that I'm trying so hard to protect? And what I heard was that was my safe place where I could hide from God. And I looked back at that and I thought, my whole life, all this time I thought I was like searching for God or whatever. I was hiding. And anyway, I went back to the front desk and I talked to her and I said, I need to apologize. And she said, oh, no, you don't need to apologize. And I said, yes, I do. I reacted instead of responding. Excuse me. And I know that it's nobody's fault. Nobody came in to, try and hurt me, but I reacted. And here it was again. I had to, I didn't have to give her the whole story, but I had to tell the truth. And I said, I reacted because I felt very vulnerable. And I know nobody was trying to harm me, but that's the way I felt. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry, and we'll make sure, and that'll never happen again, and blah, blah, blah. But after last week, and then I realized that my ego is so threatened because that's the one big hiding place, my body. And I could go through so much other stuff and give up my beliefs and stuff. But when it comes to the body, because we have one, it's like, I don't know, I'm having all this anxiety, and now every little thing that happens, I start thinking, what does this mean? What does this mean? And I guess I just have to go through that. But and I was driving home today afterwards. I didn't even want to leave the house. I felt kind of naked, kind of just that vulnerable feeling. And as I was driving home, underneath all of that vulnerability was this tremendous sadness, this not sadness about anything that has happened to me, just a general sadness. Like everybody's, I don't know if it was mine. I just was feeling this sadness, and I came back and I thought, well, maybe I'll just take a nap, and I don't have Wi-Fi anyway, and so I thought, well, no, go on anyway, use your phone. But it is really hard to take off the mask and just diffuse that that ego self, and because you feel kind of wobbly. So I just wanted to share that. I thought it was, well, it's no accident, because nothing is an accident. And I know a part of me, like, well, yes, you did this, you brought this here, so you could look at this. And so this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Anyway, I needed to really connect with somebody besides my head. So thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you for doing this. You know, we're so with you in this, and we know it takes so much courage to allow, even to give your mind permission to go through this healing. And I know it seems like in this world, things just, like you mentioned, have happened to you, lots of things. And then we finally reach a point where we do get in touch with the tremendous sadness and tremendous hurt that's in the mind, and the intense feelings, the rage and all that. And then it starts, though, the healing, because Jesus tells us that delay is unknown in heaven and tragic in time. So he uses the tragic word. And that's what Shakespeare was writing about, the tragedies of the human experience. And yet we all reach a point where we've, somewhere deep inside, we say, okay, I'm ready to heal. And you're going through those. I think it's the most difficult part is the exposing, because the vulnerability feeling is so heavy that it seems to be the most difficult thing to face it. And it's because we blame ourselves too. Like we start to see, oh, I've had these beliefs and I've had these defense mechanisms, and we judge ourselves for our defense mechanisms even. And Jesus said, yeah, that's what happens when you first start to expose them. The tendency is to take it on, take the guilt on, of even during the exposing. And I know that was, for me, that was the most difficult time. I had took everything I had just to carry on, to go on with the healing, because I felt so dark and so heavy. And I remember I just prayed to Jesus. I kept saying, is there anything you can tell me to help me with this, because it's so heavy? Because I was, it's a lot of evidence of the things that had happened to me. You know, the memories were still fresh in my mind. They weren't that far from the surface. And Jesus said, well, try this on. He said, try this. He said, I taught myself, I taught the world to teach me. He kept having me repeat that phrase. I taught the world to teach me, to take me out of what happened to me, to start to realize that when I came to this world, I was trying to escape God. I had dark beliefs, and then I called on these characters and all these characters to act this out like a Shakespearean play, a tragedy, to convince myself that I could hide from God, and now I don't want to hide anymore. I want to heal. And that helped me, because when I would think back of the memories, I would just say, okay, I taught the world to teach me. Taught the world to teach me. It's that I could start to see that it originated in my mind before I came. And then what seemed to happen, you know, like he says, and everything that seems to happen to me, I asked for and received as I've asked. He's taking away the victim perception, and he's saying, now let's substitute miracles. Let's substitute the correction in here, and let's draw forth some new witnesses, because he says you need to be convinced. You need a lot of convincing to come to your innocence and know it for sure. So to me, that's how precious this awakening journey is. That now we're ready to not hide anything, to be as vulnerable as we have to be, and to draw forth new witnesses, that there's the bright spot behind all this vulnerability is that there will be new witnesses. And that's how my journey has gone. I've gone, as I finally let go of trying to run the show, I just said, okay, you be in charge. And then I was still afraid. I was still afraid at that point, but I thought, I'm just going to put you in charge, and I'm going to have new witnesses, because I need lots of new witnesses to remember my own holiness and my own strength. So your courageousness is just so amazing. Yeah, we're just so grateful that you use that phone and that cellular today to make contact even without Wi-Fi. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were sharing, Phyllis, that it's like the prayer of true safety. And we're in a world that seemingly feels unsafe, and we want to find something that is truly safe. And that can be such a beautiful prayer in your heart to Jesus and the Holy Spirit to really show me that true safety wherever I am, and that you go through, you go with me through this. And I have actually a beautiful example, so I feel like this was perfect for you. This week, my friend Nana, she messaged me and said, I feel really frightened because my mum and dad are arguing, and my dad is really, really angry. And this has just triggered this childhood memories. And I feel like a small child, and I feel so vulnerable, and all my emotions are up in the air. But it was actually beautiful because she said, I want you to, I want your help, but I know that there's nothing that you can do for me, and that I'm creating this in my own mind, and I have to go inward. And so I said, yeah, Jesus has got your hand. And that was my message to her. Yeah, Jesus has got your hand. And of course it was actually perfect for me because like I wanted a rescue, and be like, okay, I'm going to be the hero of the dream. And it's like Jesus is like, step aside, sunshine. So it was like, okay, hands off the wheel. Somehow I felt like there was nothing that I could do, and it was just like all I heard was Jesus has got your hand, and I just sent her that message, and she said, yeah, that's exactly what I need to do. And it was like, she prayed, Jesus, I need you, and in that, through that prayer, she felt the safety. She saw that she was making it up in her mind. She saw that that was not real, and she went directly to him. And then he showed her, see, the safety was always with me, that I never left you. No matter what seems to be happening outside of you, I am always with you. And so for her, it was a huge miracle. And she just said, I'm so grateful. I'm not saying the whole thing's over, but like I found that courage to go back, and he was there for me. And no matter what had happened, he was there. So I feel like this is like the miracle for you and the miracle for everyone and all of us, that these experiences happen. And it's to like have that strength, and maybe this is what we're all remembering. It's like, it's pray first, isn't it? And sometimes it feels so hard not to react when we feel so frightened. And yeah, I experienced that, but it's like now we're remembering, and you did, and you came back to that prayer, which was beautiful. And that's what we're doing, is we're just strengthening that prayer in our mind until the true strength comes through. And that's what I love about the course. He's telling us there is a true strength, there is true safety, there is true love, there is true peace of mind. So it's like, okay, I'm going to take your perception, the mine, and I look forward to receiving your gifts, Jesus, because I trust in you. Oh, it's always a pleasure to see you, and thank you so much for healing the world. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. Oh, lovely to be with you. Wow. Thank you so much, David. I'm gonna put it on to.
So healing. This is all.
Wow.
So
yeah. What a beautiful healing. Oh, thank you, one and all. And there's Jimmy down there. Hey, Jimmy, good to see you. Yeah! Good to see you, my friend. Oh, it's lovely to. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I'm just going to go over to the other screens there. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you, David, as always.
Thank you.
What a day.
Wow, we've had so much healing going on.
Oh, yeah.
These Thursdays. It's like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Many blessings and stay in the miracle. Oh, I love you. Bye for now.